Apple Store.
One simply has to maximize your appeal, bring out all your qualities, and make you look and sound like the leader that you could be.
You've got it in you to go the whole distance.
Absolutely. That hat has got to go, and the pearls. But the main thing is your voice. It's too high and it has no authority.
I may be persuaded to surrender the hat. The pearls, however, are absolutely non-negotiable. That's the tone that we want to strike.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome this evening's guest moderator, Peter Travers from Rolling Stone, and tonight's guests, filmmaker Phyllida Lloyd and actress Meryl Streep.
Thank you. Is it working?
You're
It's working.
throwing water at me, Mrs. Thatcher.
Oh, did I throw water at you?
No, it's just
All right.
terribly wrong. Do you get the feeling when you're looking at this movie that men kind of suck? I was looking at that trailer and I was feeling it. Yeah.
If we're lucky, they do.
Oh, so flattering. Anyway, I want to begin, Phyllida, by asking you, who's worked with Meryl before in Mamma Mia, when was that moment while you were singing The Winner Takes It All that you jumped up and screamed, "She's my Margaret Thatcher"? When did that happen?
Well, she always was our Margaret Thatcher because she was like the boss. But no, seriously, we several years elapsed after Mamma Mia, and then I was sent the screenplay, and Meryl, name was suggested, and I had 30 seconds of thinking, how's this going to work? This is the most controversial woman in England. And the second most controversial thing would be to cast an American actress to play her, like casting, a British actress to play Hillary Clinton. How would you take that? And then I came to my senses and realized that, you needed somebody of Meryl's stature, a megastar, a superstar, to play a woman who was a superstar in our firmament and a global superstar in the 1980s.
Well, that sounds really simple. It's like, yes, of course, we're going to do that. Did you have any fear about approaching this? Let's start already with the fear that you're not British.
I had a lot of apprehension about playing.
And I called it
part.
fear. Silly me. Apprehension is so much better.
Well, that encompasses all the feelings: terror, worry, anxiety, everything. Because I felt presumptuous for me to walk in. But I have to tell you that Hillary Clinton was played by Emma Thompson in primary colors. Tit for tat. Yeah, so I was nervous. I knew I'd have to do my homework, and I knew that I'd have to really be prepared. But what you don't get from this trailer, because the trailer is quite deceptive. The trailer is meant to draw you in and make you think that you're going to see a war movie, and you're going to see a triumphalist saga of a woman who dominated the world. Actually, if you go to this movie, and I really hope you do, you'll see a very different thing. This is
Phyllida's face right
yes.
there is like it's not a movie about war. No, what?
Fully 40% of the film I spend as Margaret Thatcher today, as she is today, 86, fragile. And this film takes place during 3 days of her life, where she has taken the decision to move her dead husband's things out of her life, finally, after his death 8 years previous. A turbulent time that brings up the memories of her past life. This movie is very much more nuanced than we allow it to be in its marketing. And it makes me mad when I see it. I have
you're
to
mad
say,
with a smile, though.
I am mad, with,
mad
a smile
with a smile.
because that gets the work done. You know, I learned a lot from her, Margaret Thatcher. But it's a big life juxtaposed against the ebb of life. It is, you know, we've always thought it's Lear for girls. It's about how he wins, and Phyllida's made an amazing movie.
Is the idea that we're not seeing Mrs. Thatcher in her dotage, in her dementia, to save it as a surprise? Is that the argument?
No,
that we
I
don't
think
see
it's
this?
box office terror.
Terror.
I think it's fear of the fanboys. I think it disses an audience and makes, because it thinks you are not capable of appreciating something that's challenging and interesting and serious and about all of us, not about some icon that lived and had an impact on the 80s. Who cares? It's about me. It's about you. It's about the woman who wrote it. It's about all of us. And it's interesting, and it deserves to be seen in that light. So this is my tiny fight with Harvey Weinstein, and we know who's going to win. But I just feel
he
that
fights unfairly holding his Oscars.
But he does.
You need to bring yours in.
I know. Mm-hmm. It'll be a
I'd like to see that battle.
Yeah.
Everybody here, can you just raise your hand or something, feeling that you know everything there is to know about Margaret Thatcher? Are you, who here knows who
Anything
Margaret
about
Thatcher
her.
is? Anything. Let me see.
Some people do.
Some people do, but see, that's it. So, Phyllida, what do people that don't know anything need to know when they step in and see this movie?
Nothing at all. The whole point is that the film's been constructed for people who know nothing about her. And that's what, you know, having Meryl as, you know, at the center of it brought to it, because she was able to reflect back to me all the aspects of it that were completely local and parochial and that only a British person would understand. This is a kind of mythic story of somebody who, a woman who came from a lower class background, a humble background, who came into a political party of very elitist, privileged men and took them on, and had never thought she would be leader of a political party or prime minister, and was determined to drag Britain out of its post-war decline. And she was patronized for being lower class and for being female. It's a story of a woman trying to make her voice heard in the world, but it's also a story of leadership and how one's strengths can often be one's fatal flaws, and it's the story of the cost of a big life, the cost of a big public life on oneself, one's family, one's friends and colleagues.
It's so great that the women have no problems anymore, you know, that it's all been solved. You know, it's a great thing. To just show can we run the clip of the Parliament just so we could see men at their best?
When she entered Parliament, you should know, this was 1970...
Well, the scene you're saying, 74.
74. Okay. So how many women were in Parliament?
Well, by then, when she first entered, there were only 14
out of
in
600
1951.
some odd members, right?
Yeah.
There's the context for this.
Methinks the right honourable lady doth screech too much. And if she wants us to take her seriously, she must learn to calm down.
If the right honourable gentleman could perhaps attend more closely to what I am saying, rather than how I am saying it, he may receive every
So, when you look at a scene like that out of context and look at you, what goes through your mind when you're looking at you?
What goes through my mind is that this audience doesn't know that this was the Margaret Thatcher that then set about to make herself more palatable, that the ridiculous hat disappears, her voice is lowered. She goes to a speech, a teacher at the
Royal Academy of Dramatic Art.
Yeah. She sort of takes acting lessons in order to fulfill the role of a leader and to make people comfortable with the idea of a woman leader, which they were not. And that was the beginning. That was the beginning. I remember in 1979 how the world was when she was elected prime minister, and I didn't agree with anything that she stood for politically. But I was secretly thrilled because she was the first female leader of a Western country, freely elected by the populace, and that was unusual.
Yeah, more than
she
unusual.
broke ground for everybody.
But
yeah.
I'd like to talk about that for a minute, about who you were. Phyllida, you were just getting out of university, weren't you? In 19, you were already about to win your first Oscar for Kramer versus Kramer. This was 1979. So what's in your head? You're coming as a student. You couldn't have thought everything Maggie Thatcher was saying was just wonderful stuff.
None of my friends voted for her. We never did. But like Meryl, I had that feeling of, yes, the first woman through the door. But no, we were protesting against her all through the 80s. Anybody who worked in the arts was, aside from any other human sympathies we had, we were all ranged against her.
And did you feel that you had like a protest about her in your head?
Sure. I think that the things that interest me to attack as an artist are the things that I find myself culpable of. So I look at one of our presidents and say, he was a dope. I look at another, he was a crook. I look at another, he wasn't up to the job. Just these are captions. And people are so much more interesting to understand as human beings, to look at them in the round and discover why they were flawed, how they got where they got. If anything, as a cautionary tale. But it's interesting to look at people fully and not reduce them to this one. I mean, in England, there are two ways to look at Margaret Thatcher. One, that she completely dismantled England, and on the other side, that she was saintly and she saved the nation and ushered in prosperity. One side, she's a monster. Really smart, interesting people. She is just that. There is no other way to look at her. Really, other people think, she saved the economy and ushered in prosperity. But there's no middle ground, and it's really very difficult to ask people to look at a movie that considers the idea that Margaret Thatcher may be a human being. And that's what interested me, because I like to look at difficult people and figure out what makes them tick.